and good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to our panel, Restoring the Masterpiece, Reinventing 100-Year-Old Institutions. My name is Rosalie Kolb. I'm from the InsurTech Hub Munich. I'm Director of Partnerships there. And for us at the ITC Europe, is the key gathering point for the European ecosystem. It's where everything comes together, what we work on every day. Partnerships, collaboration, enabling successful transformation and real innovation between insurers, financial service providers, startups, and technology players. That's also why I'm personally very excited about this discussion today. And I'm curious to hear how our panelists see the evolution of this ecosystem, especially at the time when AI and new operating models are reshaping everything. With that, let's dive straight in and welcome to my panel. I would love to ask you to introduce yourselves. Maybe we start with you, Grace.
Oh, hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Grace Flowers, Chief Underwriting Officer of Zurich in Spain, and prior to that, a decent tenure of 20 years at Zurich in the UK in various underwriting leadership roles.
Let's continue with you, Adrian.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adrian Davis. I look after financial services and insurance at Adyen. Adyen's a financial technology platform. We help companies ingest money and pay it out. Some of you blank faces, don't know who Adyen are? Well, I think within the last 24 hours, the majority of you have probably used Adyen in some shape or form if you've made a purchase through Uber or Amazon or indeed Zara. We also work for about 100 insurance customers, many of which are here in the audience today and indeed on stage with me.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, ITC, to allow us to be here today. Another time, Stefano de Liguoro, the CEO of Allianz Direct in Spain. Happy to meet you all.
Yeah, Lars, Gehrmann, Group Chief Digital and AI Officer of Qatar Insurance. Since 5 years building innovation in the Middle East. And I'm something like the VC guys called builder. I've built companies my whole life, even on myself or for big companies.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I think it's still time to say good morning. My name is Bessem. I'm globally responsible for the innovation strategy and our venture clienting approach, where we have already operationalized more than 90 startup collaborations, but we'll dig deeper into this later on. So very much looking forward.
Yeah, thank you all. And I think we have a great community here to discuss. So let's dive in straightly to the first block, which is about transformation and sequencing. So we know transformation has to start somewhere. Adrian, my first question. How did you, with your experience as managing director at Adyen, decide what to tackle first, and where did sequencing really matter for the stability of the business? And in our prep call, you also mentioned something about defining a North Star, so maybe you can give a concrete example on that.
Yeah, happy to do so. And I hope we can be controversial. We're just with friends, aren't we? And maybe I can have a bit of a view that might be a little controversial. But in my experience, both as a consultant and my time in Adyen working in the insurance industry, I think a lot of digital transformations go wrong even before they start. I think we can waste lots of money on consultants, on technology licenses or tokens, because we don't really consider the end point. And what I mean by that, let's just dive into that a little bit more. What do I mean by that? I think sometimes we get confused around what the end point is, or indeed what the North Star is. A lot of times we're often talking about a technology outcome or some sort of program that we're going to do that's focused on technology. And I think this is particularly relevant in today's environment where a lot of us are talking about AI or agentic. I don't think that's the right place to start. I think customer journey is the right place to start. That's the destination, that's the true north. That's not to say that technology doesn't play a really important part, particularly AI, in today's environment. But you're not solving a technology for technology's sake. You're trying to solve something on behalf of a customer. Now, in Adyen, we've done a lot of research. We've recently published some with EY. We spoke to over 3,000 purchasers of insurance policies, both here in Spain and also the UK. And what's very clear is that there's 2 points of promise that the customers on that customer journey look to insurers to enhance. And that's, of course, payment of the policy and also the claim as well. And if you think about the customer journey in that form, that's how customers experience your business. That's why they come back to you for repeat business. That ultimately drives the top line of your business. And therefore, my proposition is that if you just focus on the technology itself, you're not actually focusing on what's important to the customer. And the destabilisation that comes through that, I think, can be quite self-evident. For example, you might institute a big AI project, I don't know, to modernise a new risk engine internally, and that might take maybe a year or 18 months to do. But if your customer interaction is really clunky, then your premium volume is going to shrink by the time you're ready to present to the world your perfect back office. So it's a bit like me travelling to this venue today. I didn't know where it was, but I knew where the venue was. I didn't mind whether I was going to walk or bike or get an electric bike or get an Uber. That was my mode of transport. It's the destination that's more important than the actual way that you get there.
Yeah, thank you. I think you mentioned a really important point, that never lose the customer out of the view, and that having a clear North Star definitely makes a difference. But let's build on that. And you also mentioned about the AI topic. So we see at board level, especially under growing AI pressures, decisions are getting more complicated. So let's move to the second question, board risks and AI pressure. And I would like to ask you, Lars, as Group Chief Digital AI Officer and Head of Digital Venture Partners, how do you channel board-level AI pressure for change into responsible, well-sequenced transformation?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. And I think what we see with AI now, and I've seen in the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, but I think in the last 3 years, most probably everyone of us, you and the audience and us, have been using the ChatGPTs of this world, right? And you started with one and you moved to another and you came back. And I think this is what is happening on board level as well. So what we see more and more is that board is pushing us to do more things, to execute because they feel it, yeah, and that's what McKinsey said, that even a CEO is able to write some code with Claude Code, yeah. But we, on the other hand, we are not a tree, right? So yes, we can execute certain things, and I'm on the strategy to move us into an agentic insurer. But can I really? And I think we have heard it from Swiss Re before. Governance is the critical point here, and I think we have in the EU AI Act. In the Middle East, we have similar legislation and governments in place that really doesn't help us to execute. So I believe right now board is pushing really hard, and we have to channel this push back into what is possible and what we legally can do, because that's really the challenge. I can, as a private person, do amazing things, and I'm totally agentic on my daily work. But can I work on this in the company? This is something else. I think we also see, at least we on our side, we have seen a change, while in the last years, 23, 4, and even part of 25, it was more around pilots and seeing how I can help a single business department like claims to get better in terms of claims. We shifted gears end of last year into agentic, because right now we have possibilities to get rid of boring tasks. That's how I tell to my people. I want to get rid of the boring tasks and get them working on topics that we really hired them for, thinking and taking proper decisions, because we are living in an area, in insurance, where we really need a lot of people that are highly skilled. You can't know insurance if you're a first-timer, right? You have to learn about it. And we want to get people free for doing this kind of decisions, especially on the retail side, but also on commercial insurance, where you need years of experience to calculate the right risk. So I think that's it, really. We get a lot of push, but we need to execute in the proper way, which means the right strategy, or intent to run the right strategy is more the topic.
Yeah, thank you for that really interesting perspective. And maybe we continue there, Grace, from your perspective as Chief Underwriting Officer at Zurich, where underwriting is traditionally seen as risk-averse. So how do you navigate that conversation at board level, especially when you are asking for a greater tolerance for short-term risk in order to remain competitive in the long term?
Yeah, of course. So, underwriting, yes, traditionally, has a core function to understand, identify, and assess risk. If underwriting stops there, then for me, it's completely failing. Okay, underwriting should not be risk-averse. It should be risk-aware, and then it should be going into the conversation about how to be fit for purpose in today's landscape, what's going on in the market dynamics and customer dynamics. So for me, any conversation about transformation, advancements in AI, my first point is that I want underwriting to be at the table on that. And I say that because, sometimes these conversations do come up through silos. We might have a conversation through IT or operations. That's not fit for purpose. And if we think about how AI is advancing more and more in the future, more and more of our business reality is going to work more laterally. So these current kind of terminologies around silos and functions, in a few years, we won't be talking like that. So it's important now that, we really come together. And as Adrian was saying, we kind of have a clear North Star of what is the problem we're trying to solve, which is different to what is the function that we need to improve from in there. I suppose then if I kind of look at, okay, what is going on in the world of underwriting, for example, if I think about pricing transformation, let's go there. That world is changing massively, absolutely massively. And it's my job as underwriting chief officer to really have a look at that, understand the risks of not keeping pace with that. What does that do to my business? But then also, and I think about kind of, Rosalie, your points about how do I speak to the board about this? I need to create a vision. I need to create a vision that makes it really clear what does the future of pricing in this example look like? What are the core skills? What are the core capabilities? What investment is needed to build some of these foundational parts? What is the risk of standing still and doing nothing? And I need to, and I stress the point on vision because, we're talking about AI a lot today, and I still personally feel that it's a little bit of a word that's thrown into every single conversation, and everybody's is sitting there nodding violently. Yeah, it's amazing. But actually, I'm not always convinced people are that clear. What are we actually talking about changing? What does your vision look like? So I really do think that is a critical point of importance. Because when you go to the board and you're pushing for transformation, you're pushing for change, they are not risk averse, but they do want confidence. They want confidence that you know what you're on about and you're thinking about things. You have a structure in your mind. You've got a clear vision about how you want to run things in the future. And if you can give that, then you will definitely find boards come on board a lot more quickly with you, and they allow you to push that transformation agenda through, which is absolutely imperative, because standing still is not only the wrong choice, it's a really strong sign of poor leadership.
Yeah, thank you, Grace. And I think vision is really the right keyword also for the transmission for us to our next topic. It brings us to culture. We talk a lot about technology, process, but culture often decides whether transformation sticks. Stefano, in your journey at Allianz Direct, when did culture move to the center, and what did you do about it?
So let me introduce this because, to be honest, it's not just myself. You have listened, Lars, Grace, everybody speak about culture already. So we are speaking about technology, we are speaking about AI. Everybody today and tomorrow speak about AI. But at the end, I mean, the transformation of a company, and we speak about 100-year-old company here, came first with people. So, and I'm really proud that now, for example, everybody's speaking about human in the center, human in the loop in this AI concept always, no? Because, I mean, mainly in insurance company where, I mean, the risk averse or risk, let me say, aware is something that at the end, who has to decide this are really the person, the expert on this. AI is a tool that will help us in transforming the companies and transforming the journey and the customer journey in the way how we make the life of our customers safer and easier. So in order to do that properly, let me say one very critical sentence. So in insurance company mainly, the innovation is normally provided to an organization that is risk averse. It's been created to reduce our risk. How many bureaucracy, how many process we have, how many governance we have because of regulator, yes, but I mean, regulator could not be always the reason why we are doing this. So in Allianz Direct, what we have done is to create a spin-off. So actually it's a spin-off of the company, of Allianz, precisely to give much more dynamism, to give much more, let me say, flexibility, to have like an environment where the culture could be, let me say, associated to this innovation concept. So where we could, for example, make the people failure. test things. So the AI concept, for example, is one of our, let me say, mandate this year for the group to start learning, because we know that we are still in a learning phase, not in an execution phase. So the bottom line is not being impacted by AI yet. And who is saying this? Perfect, come here, please, and tell me the truth, you know? Because, I mean, at the end, we are in a situation where we have to understand, and the AI are changing every single day. And applying this means start understanding how this could solve not our productivity only or the way how we introduce this in our journey, but how this really change our P&L. And how this improve the quality of life of our customers. These are the two important things. So we have programs internally to do that, to be honest, not just for AI. The culture goes beyond AI, in my opinion, where we would like to create a company from the people to the people. So where transparency and international is, the good thing is that in international environment, we are in 5 countries, and all of them work very together, even though the P&L is segmented by countries. But really, we are working in a single OE, as we call it. And really, this transparency and failure sharing is what make us really prepared for a cultural transformation.
Yeah, thank you, Stefano. So we see even with the right culture in place, transformation is never done in isolation. So as you mentioned, at Allianz, that maybe works already quite well with your initiatives. But let's look or take a look a bit over our company borders, I would say, and talk about build versus buy versus partner. I think that's also quite interesting for some of the InsurTechs who are here at the ITC. So we know you can't modernize everything yourself, but you also can't outsource your own way to transformation. So Bessem, as Global Head of Innovation Strategy and Scouting at ERGO, in your opinion, where do you need to own capabilities, and where do partners, whether fintechs, insurtechs, or startups, make more sense? And how do you maybe also avoid owning the wrong things?
Let me start with a bit of a provocative sentence. I think we as incumbents, we own too much of the wrong things. But let me explain that to you. I think nowadays, when you talk to corporates, and it's not an illness we have only in the insurance industry, I see it also with other industries, is that still large corporations think the more we own from a technological perspective, we have a competitive advantage. But honestly, nowadays, it's shifting towards speed, adaptability, access to ecosystems. And Rosalie, you are also part of this ecosystem with the Insure Lab in Munich, giving the access to talent, giving the access to the startups and the solutions outside, but also to the peers so that we can discuss in a more intimate round, I would say. So to touch upon what Adrian said in the beginning is the vision is not AI, the vision is not technology. The vision is what you want to achieve at the end, owning the customer journey. And I give you one very specific example here. And I think, Grace, this is also maybe interesting for you as it touches upon underwriting excellence. And we as incumbents, we need to think about what is really our core. Is it technology, or is it technical excellence in underwriting, or operations, or sales? What is that? So you need to answer it for yourself. But what have we done there? Within the Munich Re Group, we have founded a startup called Realistic Zero to reduce the time for quotation from days to minutes in industrial business. And this is something where I say we definitely need to own that technology because we can have a competitive advantage. And if I would ask the question, who of you think we should reinvent the wheel? 99% would say no, honestly. But why are we owning so much of tech components within our companies? And therefore, coming from a venture clienting perspective, now having operationalized more than 90 startup collaborations globally, I think this is a very strong answer to there's so much talent, there's so much innovation, there's so much power on the market. Just go to the main floor, you will find Otera, you will find Miss Moneypenny, Inca, all those great startups, talk to those. We are working with those, which is quite impressive what you can achieve. And I think at the end, one last sentence in regard to the culture, because this is important. Coming with an external technology internally, introducing it to your workforce is not always easy. So therefore, for me, the cultural transformation really stops not loudly. Yeah, it happens slowly and it happens very quietly. So therefore, we always need to think of how to take the people also with us at hand. They don't learn technologies by PowerPoint. They learn technologies by using it themselves and having formats at place where you, so to say, inspire to learn, to talk to the colleagues. And I know we have also colleagues here from our process mining team, for example, over there. So therefore, we are very open in getting all together and make sure that also culturally people understand, A, where we want to go, but also B, how they can leverage technologies themselves.
If I may, Bessem, I just want to pick up on your point
Please.
there around kind of, if I apply a underwriting pricing view on this, I've had some really interesting examples over the last few years where pricing and IT, technology, have really had to partner together to be able to successfully deploy more sophisticated models. And what is at the core of a successful solution there? Without a doubt, it's about trust. It's about trust that, okay, IT have got a role to play here in terms of some of those technological foundations where the points of differentiation are not very many, and actually it's about building systems, capabilities. And then once you get to the point where actually you need the actuarial expertise, you need that to be able to come in, then there's a much more fairer transition and handover. And what I've learned is that actually, you can't do that work in silos. You can't have IT over there building something to hand over. You need to really form a group that trusts each other, has that vision that we spoke about at the beginning, and really allow that to kind of blossom really from within that space itself. I think that's a really, know what your strengths are, whether and play to them, and that might mean outsourcing internally or outsourcing externally as well.
100%.
Yeah, really like the vibe on stage. We are all pro partnerships and like partnering and not of reinventing the wheel by ourselves. And I think we have the privilege today also to have great partners at stage. So maybe Stefano, you and Adrian would like to give some insights on your partnership.
From my side, we are more than happy to show this. It was not prepared at all. So, but actually the collaboration with the two companies is something that is really based on what we discussed before. So Adyen is a solution that is supporting us in the customer experience and making it much easier for our customers, not just in the moment of purchase, but also in the, let me say, payment frequency that we have during renewal and the following installments payment. This is a way how we demonstrate that nothing should be done always by ourselves. So we can do that together, collaborative in a collaboration with other companies that are much more specialized than us in each one of the different components of the customer journey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think from our perspective, we really enjoy working with Allianz Direct because your company is very entrepreneurial, it's fast moving. But I think back to my original point, that customer experience is absolutely at the heart of everything that you're doing. And I don't want to talk too much about it, but certainly some of your new technology plans, etc., are right at the heart of that. So yeah, we look forward to continuing that partnership.
Okay, thank you. And I think if we take that ecosystem perspective one step further, the real question becomes, how do you turn all this into tangible progress rather than just continuously changing? Because transformation can easily start to feel permanent, right? So this brings us also to our final question, where I'd love to get a glimpse into the future from each of you with your different backgrounds and perspectives. So in an AI-driven world, how do you ensure transformation actually lands with real milestones and proof points? And what does that tell you about where the industry is heading? And I think this also takes already some of the open questions from the audience. Who would like to start?
I'm happy to just make a few comments. I mean, I think in many organisations there's a lot of fatigue with all of these new initiatives that are taking place. Just a couple of quick examples. I think it's about how you reframe some of the objectives and milestones that we have with many digital transformation projects. And I think, rather than saying, oh, we're going to migrate everything to the cloud in Q4, you might do Something equivalent to what we were just talking about with Munich Re there. You might reframe that in the sense that actually we're going to change our checkout from 15 clicks to 2 clicks. Or we're not going to pay out in 10 days for a claim. In an emergency, we're going to pay out in 10 minutes. It's about reframing what that's like in terms of the customer journey. Because when individuals working on that project see that as a small victory for a customer, that's what motivates them, not the technology milestone. Just one final quick one. An insurer we work with in the UK, remain nameless, but throughout their organisation, even if you speak to their treasury team, they're all targeted on NPS. I think we know what NPS is, Net Promoter Score, which is a really fantastic way of, even in the bowels of an internal team in the organisation, they're still absolutely focused on what the customer wants. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us.
I think I would add that, people need to see progress. And that's both our customers need to see progress with how we're transforming the business, but also our employees as well. We've kind of touched on the point that, transformation and AI, that they can give rise to fatigue and other concerns as well. And I think they're justifiable. And I think we should have the maturity to kind of bring transparency to that and be able to discuss it. But if I maybe just lead to one of the questions that's come through, which is how we're implementing AI in underwriting. I mean, the world of underwriting is very broad. And I think it's absolutely clear there are quite different levels of pace and maturity across there. If I look at pricing, for example, I am seeing levels of sophistication jump at speed. It's quite incredible what we're seeing there. I think the future on pricing just looks even more sophisticated. I'm very excited by it, quite honestly, on the pricing side, because I really think it starts to allow underwriters to actually take on more risk, because I think we can get more confident. I think it gives us different ways to control and react, and gives us a speed of portfolio management that we didn't have in the past. And I think what I really want to achieve there is linking that to customers, linking that to new products, linking that into going into areas that I would have maybe been a little too scared to do before because I didn't have enough confidence. I might not have all the data in the world, but I have enough confidence that I can control it and I can mitigate any potential downside from it. Now, that is quite different to other areas of underwriting where the focus is a bit more on simplification, on data entry, on reading policy wordings, on document ingestion. And I do think achieving really a good level of AI that adds value to employees and customers, it is harder across that space there, where you've got different touch points, different systems, you've got different legacy models coming into play there. I think my final point here is that I think in those areas of complexity, it's important to go back to Adrian's first comment around what exactly are we trying to achieve? Because we really need to kind of, stop doing the whole, oh, that's a complicated process, let me fix that. There needs to be far more sequencing involved. Okay, I need to look at the whole process beyond underwriting, that full circle, and then challenge myself as to how I overtake it. And that's where more and more I'm seeing the conversations in underwriting develop.
Yeah, I just love that. I mean, Stefano pointing at me. Just to add upon that, because I think what you mentioned at the end with the sequencing is super important. I see this as well within ERGO, and comparing to also to other companies, is that some companies try to fix everything at once. Yeah, processes, AI, the customer journey, technology, platforms, whatever it is. But at some point, we need to sequence smartly. Yeah, and maybe just to take the question over there, how is Innovation Office tracking the value of technology transformation? I think that's quite a good one. As we moved far beyond piloting, and I think, Stefano, you said this before, that we need to outgrow from piloting, which is good to test what the value behind the technology is, but we somehow need to industrialize and scale across the market. So for us, we are deeply embedded into the ERGO strategy approach. So therefore, also the projects we have in our teams is all, I need to prove what is the profitability, what is the growth, what do we have in bottom line effects, what is the customer experience, and also the employee experience. Yeah? Those are the KPIs that we track for every and each innovation project that my team is starting, no matter where we are. So, and I think this definitely gives it a different leverage, because innovation, I mean, honestly, does a customer come to you and say, I need innovation? No, the customer comes and say, you're my insurer, I want you to be reliable. If we are innovative or not, this is something on our end. So therefore, I would say it is super important to do innovation, not anymore in silos, but to really figure out what can we pilot, what should we industrialize, and how can we bring it together to achieve our corporate goals at the end of the year.
Yeah. Coming back or continuing the thought on venture clienting and the way of partnerships. For us, we really fundamentally believe you need to bring AI on the strategy level, on the personal side and on the business side. So if we ourselves are changing the way how we operate, I think we had a question here, what do you do with AI on a personal base? I do nothing without AI. So if I have a distribution strategy to look into, I have a coach, AI coach that's built, and I'm discussing things, right? If I build in a transformation project, I work with an AI coach, and the team has the same access to going through. So I believe we all have used it, and it changes the way how we execute. If we as persons change the way how we execute, then the business model that we are doing during the day will execute it differently as well. Which comes to the question, I've been running a big InsurTech conference in the Middle East. What will be this conference where we're in next year if the real experts are AI in 12 months? Because this is the pace of innovation that we're seeing in the last years. And there's also the question, what's the best way of interacting then with partners, right? So yes, we do venture clienting for the Middle East on product sides. This does make sense because we don't have the underwriting expertise. On anything tech, I strongly believe what I've seen from McKinsey in the opening slide, 10 people can do everything or build everything that we want in today's world, right? So we are not confined anymore. I need an IT company doing things. I can do it on my own with the right tools behind. And this will really change the way how insurance operates in the future, changing our business models. So this is really the strategic question that we need to try to answer looking forward.
Just 1 minute or less than
Yeah,
this.
of course.
I mean, for me, to answer to your question, the objective will not be changed at all. So the objectives are the same than 10 years ago. The tools and the instruments that we have now make this easier to do that and more precise. This is for me the answer. There was a question that is not in the panel anymore, but let's say AI first MGA could overtake a traditional company. My answer is, without the human in the loop, no. This is my direct answer. So just an NGA with AI first is a fantastic tool that everybody should work with, but without the experienced people that make the final decision, I think not.
Great, thank you. And also thank you to the audience for these many questions, and I love the way you picked them up by yourself, so thank you to you as well. Maybe to bring it to an end, because we reached the final minute, we have a quick closing round. So make it crispy, short, and give the audience a sentence they keep themselves in their minds. So in one short sentence, what's the one sign you look for that tells you your transformation is working, not just happening? Let's start with you, Grace.
For me, it's when the buzzwords stop. I had a meeting a few weeks ago in a motor pricing meeting, and some insights came to the table, and I was super intrigued by them. Like, wow, okay, I'm impressed at that. Where did that come from? And, machine learning models behind. But that wasn't how the conversation started, and that, for me, is a little proof point. We've got the right culture there.
Thank you.
Yeah, similar. I think Stefano was talking a lot about culture. I think I like it when people come to me with ideas that I didn't come up on my own, because it means the transformation and culture is actually working quite well.
Yeah, I like that one. Okay. Thank you. Bessem?
So for me, once I see the adoption rate for AI use cases increase in terms of numbers, then I know that the buzz is gone somehow, yeah.
Great. Stefano?
I'm the bored one, so impact in P&L, in the bottom line, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. And Adrian?
No great words of wisdom, but I'll finish where I started and just say happy customers.
Okay, yeah. That's also important. So thank you all. That was really fun. I think what we've seen today is that transformation is not a project, but a combination of strategy, technology, culture, and above all, partnerships. And I think that's exactly what this fair is all about. And so have a great fair. I think you can ask your questions also after this panel to our panelists. They are open to discuss. And yeah, happy to meet you.